our women have just been duped and tricked, and it's not necessarily any fault of their own. They was just trying to survive. Welcome back, family. Sorry, it's been a minute since I tapped in. Life's been hectic, but then again, who life isn't, right? So my apologies. I definitely intend to do better in the future. But just kind of wanted to talk about something, especially since certain topics have become popular and prevalent now. Certain people are talking on certain subject matter, and I think it would be good just to put my 2 cents in. And the subject is family relationships, something I've touched on here and there in a few videos in the past. And one influencer in particular, whose content I kind of want to speak about, or set as the backdrop to what I'm going to speak about, is Mr. Kevin Samuels. And not to really get into the particulars of what he talks about, but I want to get into the broader picture and essentially what that is to me, or what I extrapolate from what he says. It's just the dysfunction or lack of ability to communicate happily and coexist happily between black men and black women. Well, on his platform, all men and women, but for my concern, more importantly, black men and black women. And I think by watching some of the female guests who have appeared on his show, I think a lot of times they're just told the expectation for men and what they're doing wrong, which I don't necessarily disagree with, but I feel it's important to also give a backdrop to it. How do we get here? What took place? How do we become so far from one another, from a place of being able to get along and coexist and everybody be happy and feel fulfilled and like no one's taking the short end of the stick? And I think an important place to start with that is the dismantling of the black family that has kind of been, well, not even kind of, it has been done systematically over time, post Jim Crow, post slavery and all like that. Some things to consider when you think about how we got ourselves in this predicament, in this situation. I think it would be important to note a few events. Event number one would be drugs being poured into your neighborhoods. Now, that's important for a few reasons. Well, why? Well, when drugs were poured and flooded into your neighborhood, a lot of your men were not being hired because of their race. They couldn't get jobs with white employers, and by and far, white men were the ones who had job opportunities because they created businesses. They were the only ones they were really allowed to during that time. And so with that, I can't get a job, and they got these drugs in my community. Well, you got two choices. You can use the drugs to cope with the pain of not being able to get a job and support your family, or you can sell the drugs to try to get some money to provide and help your family. The only thing with both of those options is they both had the same outcome. Your ass was going to end up in jail. After they flooded your neighborhood with drugs, they implemented, and some of y'all will note your current president for his help in doing this, but they implemented the crime bill, mass incarceration with minimal sentencing. So most of your black and alpha males, you got to think about, alpha male, he feels he's got to get out here and get it, and by any means necessary. He's not willing to sit and look his woman in the face as his children's stomach hurt, or as her stomach hurt, or the lights is going out. So he's going to make a move, by any means necessary. That's his job. He's a provider. So he goes out, he sells drugs, he gets popped. 15-year minimum sentence, a 30-year minimum sentence, really back in the day, if you really knew how they was getting down. 30-year minimum sentence. You ain't got no firearm. It's non-violent, just for possession or possession with intent to distribute, or whatever the case may be, or for having paraphernalia on you. And so with that, they've now taken the black man out the home, either for being a drug user or a drug distributor. That's just one instance. What else did they do? Well, now that your black man is out the home, and that you got to remember, this is 1960s, 1950s, somewhere in there. Well, now that your black man is out the home, it's left for the woman to provide, defend, and provide provision and other things for herself and her offspring, while her man is now being detained. So yeah, so then there's mass incarceration. So now the woman's in the house trying to support and feed these kids. What she got to do? Well, initially, they got government assistance. Seems helpful, you know, trying to help out the people. The only caveat is, if you're a woman who gets on government assistance, you can't have no felons in your house. In more times than not, you can't have a man in your house. Now, why is that important? Because the man, in some cases, this wasn't everybody's reality, but it was a reality for a majority of our people. Well, your man's locked up, so now you're dependent upon the government to help provide for your children and yourself. But the only thing is, when it's time for your man to come home, he can't come back home with you. Not if you want to continue to get those government assistance. Not no food stamps, not a wig, not none of that shit. You can't, the utility assistance and other things that they have, you can't get that with a felon in your house. And also with this felon, you can't get no job. You can't vote. You can't do nothing. You can't provide for yourself. You can't come back into society and be a man. You can't get a job. We haven't been educated to start businesses for ourselves, so that's not even on a lot of our people's minds, even though it should be, especially if you got a record. Just because so many people are biased, discriminate against things like that. And you got to be honest that black people are getting records, whether it is just, so to speak, or not. You know, you wrong place, wrong time, you got a sentence. Judge got a bad day, you got a heavier sentence. Yeah. So anyway, what I'm getting at is the black man was strategically taken out of your home. And then there was things put in place to prevent him from coming back. And then the flip side of this, one of the things that Kevin talks about a lot on this show is sometimes the disrespect or the disrespectful attitude or how women look down on men. Well, you got to think, and this is not that it's right. Our women have just been duped and tricked, and it's not necessarily any fault of their own. They was just trying to survive. And this is kind of the outcome of the bullshit they put in place. And so, all right, so back to what I'm saying. So now, you got women who either their husbands or father of their children are in jail. And so they're not there to, for one, give an example of how a man loves a woman, be a father figure, or any other things a man needs to be doing in the house, around the house, for his children, for his woman. He's been removed. He's been locked up and demonized by society even as well. And so not only have they removed you from your home and banned you from your home and dragged your name through the mud as a black man, but in turn your woman now has to go get a job. And what happens is when the woman now becomes the bread owner, she starts getting a breadwinner or whatever, she starts getting a job, they start to educate themselves. She doesn't feel like she needs to submit to you. She doesn't feel like she needs to necessarily listen to the things you have to. We equal. I make money too. I've been providing for these kids for the last 40, 50 years as a people, as a black people. Single independent ladies. Like, a lot of us just take things for what they are. We don't think critically or to break down and look at why things are the way that they are, or how certain things just only seem to trigger and impact black people and the black community. It's all by design. It's not a mistake. It's not an accident. You just need to open your eyes and see what's really at play and what's really going on. And so anyway, back to what I'm saying. These women are now becoming more educated. They're now high earners. And so now it's to the point where they're on a quote unquote pedestal, so to speak. And they're like, well, you can't match my earning. You can't match my educational level. You can't match anything of mine. Which is, and by society standards or by the statistics, that's true. A lot of black men cannot compete with the income of their female counterparts, with the status of a job or status of titles with their female counterparts, just opportunity in general with their black female counterparts. And the black female also has to be aware of the fact that her man, and I don't mean your personal boyfriend, but the black man, her man has been demonized. So his opportunities are not the same as hers. He is not accepted in places where the black woman is accepted. In order to be accepted and be black, especially if you're talking about corporate America, you have to be a female or a feminized male, or feminized or homosexual. And that's no diss to to any male that falls in either one of those categories. It's just the reality. You don't seem threatening. You're not alpha. You're not masculine. It's nature and animalistic common sense. And so I don't speak this from a place of hate to white people, because it's instinctual. Why would I put my competition on a high pedestal? The female is not the white man's competition in that sense. And that's not to say that we are not people. We all are people or whatever. We ain't no one big happy family, but we all are people. But the hierarchy within people is, the man's the king and the female is the queen. And to empower your queen does nothing but gain me her eye. It does nothing but gain me her appeasement. It doesn't really empower black people by far to empower the females. And so that's why they're all right with doing it. And that's why you have, a lot of black women that are able to elevate, whether it be educationally or within the ranks of companies that don't necessarily allow black men to do so. And before you argue that and think I'm lying, you ask a lot of these successful women who do have, a spot of black men in their workplace, right? Why in most cases they don't date them? Yeah, some black men make it to where some of our black females make it, but they're not the men that they want to date. They usually don't see them as masculine. They usually see them as being not black enough, just for lack of a better phrase. They're not the man that they want, and it's because your alpha males, your masculine males, are not going to be allowed to transcend to those type of levels. And why does that matter? Well, because where you work and the level of work that you do and your position generally equates to your income. So when the black woman is out here dating, she's got her qualifications of he's got to have X amount of income. He's got to have X amount of, you need a BS or a MS, MA, or a PhD at the end of his name, or JD, whatever the case may be. And the reality of that is that most desirable black men are not going to be able to do that. So what does that mean, black men? That's not an excuse. That means you got to provide for self. That means, yeah, you do got to go out there and create an opportunity for yourself to get the kind of money you need to support your family. But it also does mean for our women as well that you have to be, for one, smarter than the situation that you've been put in. You've been put in a position to be in conflict with your man. You've been put in a position to look down on your man. So that why? You can't reproduce. Y'all can't have functional families. You can't build wealth without a functional family. There is no legacy without family. There is nothing without family. And so if I break up, tear up, dismember your family, I've killed you. It's just a matter of time. It's just a matter of time. Yeah, y'all still reproduce right now. You got baby mamas and baby daddies. It's not sustainable. It's not. And the longer that we keep at this without realizing the situation we're truly in, without realizing the circumstances we're truly dealing with, the more we'll continue to infight rather than working together to actually solve the problem. And so I just think that it's very important to put that backdrop in there, because women that go in there sometimes can be so close-minded, and I think it's because, or maybe one of the reasons it can be because they feel like they're just at fault and being blamed and not knowing where it's coming from. Well, let me be the first to tell you, you've been duped. It didn't start with you. It didn't start with the current woman. Like I said, it started in 1950s, 60s. But the reality is what it is, and it's still going on. And we have got to one, see past it, two, do better, and get back in tune with who we need to be. And also, I'll even go a step further with the working thing in the division is, he talks about how masculine a lot of our women are now. Well, why? Why are women so? Because the men have been absent. And so what does the woman, she's had to protect. She's had to provide. You think about a woman in certain, fulfilling certain positions that are traditionally male positions. And even though there are some women that do these jobs and do them successfully, and that's great, they do tend to require a level of masculinity, whether that be authoritative action, voice, perspective, tone. I would say that's the biggest one, the authority. You know, a lot of authority, a lack of respect is sometimes the complaint from a lot of black men to black women, and that's because they have had to have been in this masculine energy for so long to I guess, you know, protect, raise our children in our absence or in our father's absence, and our well, I wouldn't quite say grandfather, because I'm 30, about to be 34. My parents were born in the 60s, and so I mean, many of you could look at your family tree. My mom never married. My mom and dad were never married. My grandparents were over 50 years. My great-grandparents were more years than that. My great-great-grands, them too. The breakdown happened around the 60s. You can fact check me. You go look it up for yourself. But yeah, I appreciate y'all joining me. I appreciate y'all tuning in. I just wanted to put that bug in your ear and kind of give a backdrop and some insight to some of the things that you're hearing out here, because I know his show is popular. I think he puts out a lot of great information because it is true. Whether you like it, a lot of the stuff, I can't say I agree and hold on to every word he says, but by far, a great deal of what he's saying is true. And it's not, and I don't know that his aim is necessarily to shame or chastise our women. We're just trying to get everybody back on track and back on the same accord. But I don't want it to feel like, you know, people are just pointing the finger. I mean, I guess they are to a certain extent, but I wanted to give some reason. I know a lot of us, just to be frank, don't know our history like that. That's why we walk into situations like this and oh, how the fuck did this happen? How did we get here? Well, it's not my fault. You know, we don't take the time to learn about ourselves, learn about our history, so we don't end up in the situations that we've been in before, repeating and doing the same shit, chasing our tail, so to speak, or going through the same struggles and hells and levels of hell, so to speak, as we've been through before. We've seen this before. And so we just need to educate ourselves, elevate ourselves, and do better. Love y'all, man. Peace. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share. I appreciate y'all tuning in. Try to be more consistent. Peace, family.